Okay, so today we're going to be talking about taking the patient's temperature. So normally when you take the patient's temperature, you use a thermometer. And this is one right here. I hope you guys can see it. That's one of them. And then there's another one where you can just hold up to the forehead. There's a glass one, and then but there's like different kinds that you can use. And then normally your temperature would have to be is at 97.6 to 99. That's a normal resting temperature of a patient. And then when you take your patient's pulse, you make sure you have gloves on and everything. You use your index finger and your middle finger to take the patient's pulse. And so right here is your radial, okay? And that's where you take your patient's pulse. Hold on, let me do it here. So this is where you take your patient's pulse right here, okay, which is the radial. And then when you're taking your patient's pulse and respirations, so you make sure that you have your two fingers here, and then you do not let your patient know that you're taking their respirations. You take it at the same time as you're taking the pulse. And then for the blood pressure, you would need to use your I can't say it, but this is the one that you need to use. And then your stethoscope is to listen for pulse, to listen to heartbeat, and the stylistic, the sisolostic. I can't say it. And then for the blood pressure cuff, you would need to use, here's a picture of the blood pressure cuff. And the blood pressure cuff is to place pressure on the artery, on the brachial arteries, and to hear the diastolic and the stylistic. So when you are taking your patient's pulse, you have to put the cuff on the brachial. So the brachial is going to be, so right here is the brachial right there. So as you can see on my arm, this is your brachial right here. This is your brachial where you put the blood pressure cuff at. And then you make sure that you make sure that the blood pressure cuff is secured and all that. And then you have to make sure that you pump it. But if you have not took the patient's blood pressure before and you don't have anything to go off of, you would have to palpate the brachial and take their pulse. And then once you do that, you take it for 30 seconds, and then you double that for a minute, okay, for 1 minute. But then to that number you would add 40 mm and 40 mm Hg, okay. to obtain your inflation level. So you always have to make sure that you do that first. If you have not taken that patient's blood pressure, you have to make sure that you're always palpating the brachial if that's a new patient and you don't have any blood pressure numbers to go by from that patient. You have to always make sure that you do that no matter what. And that goes for all new patients or anything like that. So, and then when you're taking the pulse, so to go back to the blood pressure, this is the blood pressure meter right there, and it reads the blood pressure and the heart rate and the pulse and stuff. But even though if it's a digital and even though it reads all that, you want to make sure that you do it yourself so you'll know and you know how to do it. And then for the pulse, you make sure that you'll need a pulse oximeter machine, a probe, the patient's records, and a black ink pen. So this is not a pen, but it's a pencil, but you do not use a pencil, you use a black ink pen always. This is a pulse oximeter right here. This is it. It's to record the pulse and measure the oxygen and the blood and stuff like that. And then but yeah, you always have to take the patient's vital signs no matter what. But yeah.